Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, everyone. To all our brigaders, we are so grateful for you and for staying in this fight, for staying on the front lines in this battle for truth, in this battle for justice, in this battle for what our nation is all about. I know, of course, last month was a setback, to say the least, but the resiliency of this community in banding together and ensuring that our constitutional safeguards are protected is a major step in the right direction. It's a major show that we will not be rolled over. And while Donald Trump and others in the MAGA movement may have been able to step on corporate media using their oligarchs as intermediaries, and as all of these billionaires go to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring, I think it shows why it's more important than ever to have oligarch-free, investor-free, independent media like this network right here. And Cohen, you and I had been warning, whether it was union leaders, workers, people who were distracted by all of the culture wars that MAGA was spewing when they were saying, you really should care about the transgender volleyball player in San Jose State, get angry about that, get angry about all these other things. But while MAGA was pickpocketing people and basically looting and plundering and planning Project 2025, now on the eve of Christmas, a lot of these union leaders and people are in the find out stage. Here are the firefighter unions in New York who feel that they've been tricked and manipulated by Donald Trump and Republicans. Let's play it.
We're calling on the administration that's coming in. We're calling on the senators and Congress people that have made their promises to honor what everyone has said, to never forget.
New York City Fire Department unions are calling for the restoration of funding to the James Zadroga 9/11 Health and Compensation Act after it was left out of Congress's funding on Friday. The act guarantees medical treatment for first responders, firefighters, and survivors who helped with the recovery efforts following the World Trade Center attack. It also provides financial compensation for those who suffered injuries, illnesses, or death as a result.
Cohen, let me toss it over to you.
Well, let me also wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa. You do have to do it like I do, all in one. Otherwise, it just takes too long. I'm very upset about, the fact that these firefighters who risk everything every single day for us, here in New York and around the entire country, feel that they're being neglected. It really upsets me. For not just the firefighters, but for police officers as well, who are now suffering as a result of 9/11. And yet during these periods of time, where so many of those coming into the new administration, including those from the previous 45 administration, are kissing the asses of the people who actually are involved in 9/11 simply for the money that they're looking for. The whole thing is just absolutely wrong. But Ben, join me for a second here, because you remember, and a lot of people were making fun of me when I said, when Trump sees, for example, Putin going into Ukraine and taking land, taking over or trying to take over that country. And the concern is that as soon as he accomplishes that, his next target will be Poland. And we talked about how NATO won't exist for the United States because he intends to jump out of that immediately. But I sort of said that, and you may remember this, well, if Putin's taking Ukraine and then going to try to take Poland, and China is looking to take Taiwan, why would Trump not look to take Mexico as well as take Canada? And now all of a sudden you hear him talking about taking over the Panama Canal, taking over Canada, where he talks about, let's read this one. I'm going to put my glasses on. Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States due to its critical role to America's economy and national security. A secure Panama Canal is crucial for U.S. commerce and rapid deployment of the Navy from the Atlantic to the Pacific, and drastically cut shipping times to U.S. ports. United States is the #1 user of the canal, with over 70% of all transits heading to or from U.S. ports. Considered one of the wonders of the modern world, Panama Canal opened for business 110 years ago and was built at huge cost to the United States and it goes on. All right, my point is, it's exactly what I said he would do. I turned around and I said that he's going to look to take Mexico. He'll look to take Canada. Why? Because in that way, you don't have borders anymore. Now you have shoreline. And how many people are like, oh, it can't happen. It can't happen. Bullshit.
It's not just Panama. It's also Greenland.
Yep.
He threatened, he actually, the direct language that he used is that Greenland basically belongs to the United States. He says this is in the announcement of who his ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark's going to be, because Greenland is a territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. And then Trump goes, the United States of America feels that ownership and control of Greenland is an absolute necessity. Now, Michael Cohen, if President Biden ever used language like that, what do you think would happen?
The same thing that happened when he had a pretty bad debate. They would be calling for his head. But then again, we are our own worst enemy. And I'm so thankful as well, as not only, we now are all going to be celebrating a holiday, but, as well as the new year. I'm so thankful for all of our brigaders, because the shit hasn't even started yet. It hasn't even begun. And together, again, it's why I say that this community, the Midas Touch Network community, and the various assets that fall under this non-traditional media outlet, which is so highly respected that they ended up giving Ben an opportunity to even interview President Biden before he leaves, which we talked about last week. But I'm so thankful for this community, because there's going to be a lot that's going on, and there's going to be an enormous, yes, and his brothers as well, but there's going to be an enormous amount of stuff that's going to be happening, literally starting day #1, whether it's going to be Greenland, whether it's going to be the hundreds of executive orders he intends to pass on day #1. There's going to be the fighting with the Senate for the confirmation on not just the people that everybody keeps talking about. How about the ambassadors as well? Those, ambassadors have to be confirmed as well. So who's going to be the ambassador for Greenland? Who's going to be now, as we know, the ambassador to France? It's going to be Charlie Kushner, or the part of these Middle Eastern envoys that includes Bullis, his father-in-law, Tiffany's father-in-law, Trump's in-laws. I mean, all this stuff is just out of control right now, and it really should make people nervous. You have every right to be nervous, not to be rattled, but just be cautious.
A few different points. Thank you for the kind words and the kind words of this entire community about that interview with President Biden. When I did,
I really
am. I appreciate it. And when I did that interview, my inspiration are the news reporters of kind of the yesteryear, right? When news reporters would ask questions respectfully, with dignity, they would respect the office, they would push back. Those were not softball questions that I was asking President Biden. I mean, I addressed some real issues. You did all of these things for these workers. A lot of them didn't vote for, your team, you and Kamala Harris. They voted for the other guy. What do you think about that? What are your regrets? But I listened. I let him talk. I let him explain himself. I wasn't going for the gotcha, because I don't believe that was the role of someone in the position that I was in there. I believe it was to extract as much information as I can, and for us to listen to him speak and hear his positions, hear his policies, hear his how he views his legacy, what he wants to accomplish. And then you can actually get this, form opinions about someone in an intelligible way with all of the data. That to me is how I wanted to build this media network of the future, which is actually ironically a throwback to the way I view that media was before the 24-hour cable news and before social media made it about sound bites, when the fourth estate was robust and meant something. So to me, it was a throwback to that. And that's the type of interviews we're going to do in the future. Now, you mentioned about the ambassador of Denmark. It's a guy named Ken Howry. By the way, if you, without even knowing Ken Howry, have you ever heard of Ken Howry before, Cohen?
No idea.
Okay, but what would you just guess Ken Howry's background is if he was appointed by Donald Trump to be an ambassador of something?
Hedge fund.
Exactly. See, so, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I knew you would get it.
You don't
right.
have, listen, it's all good. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, all of these guys were big financial contributors. I saw that in 2017. The only difference is a lot of the appointments, for example, I knew Dave Shulkin very well. I knew him for many, many years. And Dave Shulkin was my recommendation for Secretary of the VA. In fact, David Shulkin received 100 votes, the full Senate confirmation. The only one, by the way, who got 100. It was 100-0. And why? I'll never forget when I had said to Trump, this is a great story. I said to Trump when we were sitting there, because the person he wanted to bring in turned him down, and we really needed a Secretary of the VA. Well, I said, what about a friend of mine? His name is Dave Shulkin. And Trump turned around and said, well, what's his background? Why him? And I'll never forget, because Reince Priebus, who was known as Rancid Penis, was in the room, and he goes, I don't know him. I said, you don't fucking know him. I said, how could you not? Right now, he's the undersecretary of the VA under the Obama administration. And Trump looked at me and he got angry. He was like, is there something wrong with you? Why would I put a Democrat in as the secretary of the VA? He goes, what's wrong with you? You're not thinking. And I turned around and I said, Mr. Trump, I said, Dave Shulkin is a lifelong Republican. He goes, what? I said, he's a lifelong Republican. He goes, wait, he's a lifelong Republican? He's the undersecretary? I said, yeah. In fact, when your mother-in-law, when Amelia, Melania's mom, burnt herself that time when we were all together over at Trump National in Bedminster, remember I made a phone call? They ended up rushing her over to, what was the hospital there in New Jersey? Maybe Hackensack, the big gigantic hospital there. I said, he was the former administrator of the hospital, and he's the one that ended up going ahead and ensuring that she was taken care of, which thank God she didn't need a skin graft or anything like that. It was a pretty bad burn. So he goes, yeah. So he goes, yeah, I remember that. So he goes, bring him in. I want to meet him. And Dave Shulkin became the undersecretary. I bring up this story simply in 2017, when Trump was bringing in administration, he didn't bring in administration of all insiders. Every one of these groups, every one of these guys and girls that are coming into this new administration, they are all part of the same gang. Everybody somehow is connected to somebody else through one or two individuals, like the Kevin Bacon game. And that's the danger here, because they all have the identical ideology. And a lot of this is not even coming from Donald. That's the craziest part. That's the part that bothers me the most. In 2017, Trump really did have his finger on the pulse. Right now, it's all being done by the transition team. And that's the problem. When you now see who's the guy who is being indicted, he was selling positions in the Trump administration. I mean, this is the problem. Everything is for sale. And it's not even for sale by Donald Trump, which of course will piss him off, because obviously, like all mob bosses. They want their taste. But everybody is out there doing this. Rudy Giuliani did it at the end of the first Trump term, right? Now they're doing it again. They're basically selling positions, which is insane.
Well, we saw what happened during that continuing resolution debacle, right? Where Elon Musk jumped in with a bipartisan continuing resolution. He started posting photos of himself with samurai swords, kill the bill, shut the government down, nothing should be passed until Trump gets into office. Trump was golfing when that was taking place. And so I think he was signing MAGA hats at the time when that was taking place also. And then so Trump sees what's happening. And then Donald Trump starts to post, well, actually, we need to raise the debt ceiling again, or eliminate the debt ceiling in order for a continuing resolution to be passed. And Trump says, shut it down unless you do that. And then Democrats were like, no. And even Republicans were like, whoa. Didn't you previously tell us not to raise the debt ceiling when Biden was in office? Isn't the whole thing, the whole charade we're supposed to be playing here is that we want less debt? Why would we raise the debt ceiling? How does that make any sense? We're all on record saying the opposite. So then they kind of like ignored Trump. But then when you look at what that kind of final bill looked like, Cohen, I think it had about $90 million of funding for the inauguration, which is one of the reasons why I think Trump was ultimately fine with the continuing resolution being passed, even though it didn't mention the debt ceiling at all. I think someone alerted him, by the way, you realize your funding for the inauguration is in this thing. And then restrictions on sending certain technologies to China, or businesses sending certain technologies to China, that was removed from the bill. So there were restrictions because their whole point was, we got to be tough on China, so let's not give them our technology. Let's restrict businesses from doing that. Well, then they removed that from the bill. And who's that going to benefit? Oligarchs who want to do business in China, ultimately, like Elon Musk.
When was the last time that an oligarch reached out to any one of us and turned around and said, hey, I have an idea, right? Where I'm going to help the American people. They're not. They're all in it for themselves. So you have a whole group. By the way, and this wasn't even who I was thinking about. I Googled it as I'm sitting here talking to you. Literally, Eric Trump. All right. Got to give the kid a little bit of credit here. But Eric Trump, literally, it says here, this is from USA Today. Actually, I'll go for a different one. I'll go for this right-wing paper, The New Republic. Eric Trump delivered a harsh message to Boris Epstein after reports he tried selling access to Donald Trump. That's Boris Epstein, for God's sakes. That's the idiot that walks around carrying the fucking boxes for Donald. But he's not even the one that I was talking about. There was somebody that was just recently indicted. This is really important stuff. Government's not supposed to be for sale. If government is for sale, there is a reason why the person who may have the money within which to buy the spot, there's a reason why they want it. And it's not to help us. It's not to do good for America. It is because they have a vested interest in that specific position, whether it'll be DOD, whether it'll be EPA, whether it'll be the FCC. They have some sort of a vested interest. And the problem, again, I can't even blame Trump for this as much as I want to, because they always say, oh, shit flows downhill. There is an entire transition team here. And all of these folks that ended up latching on like Boris, all of a sudden you start getting phone calls from people. They say, well, I need X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, sure, I can make that happen for you. And so I'll make it worth your while. Oh, yeah? What does that mean? I don't know. How about $1 million? All right, sounds right to me. But $1 million? I don't know. You're asking for a lot. This is what the problem is. And to those of you that don't think that this is what's really going on, like this Irish, whatever his name is, who's sitting here trolling us, you're an idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about. You've never been in the fold. You've never been in the mix. You don't know Donald Trump from a fucking hole in the wall. The closest you've ever gotten to him is sitting 4th row higher up in the middle of a stadium watching one of his 90-minute speeches. I've been shoulder to shoulder with the guy. And yeah, it's all transactional. That's the problem. So the folks that are around him think it's transactional for them too. And this is going to really cause for all of us come January 20th. It's going to cause for us a massive, massive tidal wave of chaos. Why? Because the very second that those 200 or so executive orders are going to be signed, including pardons for the entire group of January 6th insurrectionists. Serious? Because he wants to, and others want to call them hostages. They are not hostages. So what's going to happen? All of a sudden, you're going to start seeing one lawsuit filed after another, after another, after another. Our entire existence is going to be lawyers filing lawsuits against our government, against our president, against our Congress, against our Senate, in order to try to stop them from doing the things that they want to do. This is no way for a government to run. You know, we all have to acknowledge, whether you like Donald Trump or you don't, it's not the point here. You all have to acknowledge that a president, whether you voted for him or not, has the right to pick and choose his cabinet. Absolutely. Every president has done that. And every president comes in with a different agenda. Yes. But what about those that are around him that are creating an agenda that's unconstitutional, that's anti-democratic? This is the problem. It's where all of a sudden we're losing our democratic republic to an autocracy that's going to be run by oligarchs. Sound familiar?
Well,
sounds like Russia.
Well, if you look at Belgrade and Serbia, you see the protests of over 100,000 people there taking to the streets. Same against a Putin-backed regime there. You're seeing the protests in Tbilisi in Georgia. You're seeing the fall of the Putin-backed authoritarian in Syria. And so you're actually seeing, though, these authoritarians across the world being protested against. And, you know, at some point, people, that's why I showed the video at the beginning of the firefighters who, by the way, didn't endorse Vice President Kamala Harris, even though Harris and Biden were the most pro-union in the history of the United States of America. At some point, as you know, working for Trump, people have a point where they go, oh crap, I'm being conned. How people keep falling into it is something that, you know, you'll have to really understand, some mass psychosis type of situation, but you know more than anyone. Anybody who deals with Trump has a moment where after a while it's like, yes, this is a con artist. This is someone who is a bad person. And right now in this current environment that we're in, where these oligarchs are laughing in our faces, you know, that's potent. And I think it's important that, you know, we channel that frustration peacefully. And I think it's important, though, that as people see what he's doing, in my view, very quickly, there's going to be, if he does the things he says he's going to do, mass protests, peaceful protests, and mass protests against him. And I think that he'll entrench himself further. You mentioned cabinet picks, though. Cohen, I want to talk about Gaetz, because that report came out. You and I had debates about that report before. I want to get your take on it. We've got a very quick commercial break today to pay the bills of the show. We'll come right back, and I got to ask you about Gaetz.
Boom. It's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend that you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA, and they use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. And you know what? They feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some five-star hotels. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature, again, all night long, no matter the weather, so that you get better sleep every single night. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7%. Get a look, 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. So there's no more gross odors too. Go to trymiracle.com/beat to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code BEAT, B-E-A-T, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save, get a load of this, an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Now upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. And go to trymiracle.com/beat and use the code BEAT to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/beat to treat yourself. And thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Golden Nugget Online Casino invites you to turn the cold gold. So transform your winter moments into winning ones with all your casino favorites like the thrilling slot Icy Wilds, Blackjack, and exclusive games that you can't find anywhere else. Plus, enjoy special seasonal rewards all winter long. So whether you're spinning reels or doubling down, make this a season to celebrate. Now, new players sign up with code BEATDOWN and spin for a shot at up to $1,000 in casino credits with a minimum deposit of $5 or more only on Golden Nugget Online Casino. So make any moment golden. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER and please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. It's one per new customer. Deposit $5 and spin wheel to receive $10 to $1,000 in non-withdrawable casino credits for select games that expire in 168 hours. Terms at goldennuggetcasino.com/welcome.
No, I've said it before, Cohen. I think there should just be a podcast that's made up of your ad reads, just you reading ads. I think your voice is a very soothing ad read voice. Thank you to our pro-democracy sponsors. Look, we don't have outside investors. We're not funded by oligarchs. We're not big corporate media. We got to be scrappy. We got to find ways to fund this operation. We've got a great team of people who work behind the scenes who you don't see. So shout out to our pro-democracy sponsors. Shout out to all of you, Legal AFers, Midas Mighty, Beatdown Brigaders. All of you are so incredible. Patreon.com/political beatdown, by the way, is the place where Michael Cohen and I hold multiple meetings each month with all of you. You can meet us, ask us questions in a more private setting. So join it if you can. Patreon.com/political beatdown. So Michael Cohen, the House committee released the ethics report into Matt Gaetz. Gaetz was previously picked by Donald Trump to be the top law enforcement officer in the United States, the top lawyer, the top prosecutor, the attorney general. Matt Gaetz had really no trial law experience at all as a lawyer. His dad was in politics in Florida. That's kind of how he got his start. He basically did a legal case or two for family businesses. Then he worked in Florida politics. Matt Gaetz did. Then he was in the House of Representatives at a pretty young age. And while he was in the House of Representatives, while he was a member of Congress, while he was given this position of public trust, he was engaging in all of this conduct. And I want to be very clear. I've said this before. This isn't to sex shame. I'm not interested in the sex lives of members of Congress and what they do in their private lives. The issue is, are they abusing public trust? Are they doing things with their position? Or in the case of Matt Gaetz, was the conduct, not like a sex shaming thing, is the conduct statutory rape? Then it becomes a very serious issue where a person should not hold a position of power. And that's ultimately what the Ethics Committee found. And we'll talk about what the substantial evidence found. But while MAGA Republicans have been so obsessed and focused on Hunter Biden this and Hunter Biden that, Hunter Biden was a private citizen. He was not a member of Congress. He was not picked to be a cabinet member. He is a private citizen engaging in consensual sexual acts as a private citizen. But MAGA's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's very close to Matt Gaetz, Cohen, they would say, the laptop from hell, look at Hunter's penis, look at this, look at that. It would be like that. No, but they would sex shame the hell out of him, shame him for being a drug addict. He was a private citizen. He was the son at that time of someone who wasn't the president and wasn't even the vice president. Hunter Biden's brother, Beau, had just died. Hunter Biden was at the lowest point. He hit rock bottom. And that's what he was been shamed for as a private citizen. But when it came to Matt Gaetz, all the MAGA Republicans, other than a small group in the Ethics Committee, from MAGA Mike Johnson to Jim Jordan to Marjorie Taylor Greene to Donald Trump, all these people were like, don't release the report. It should be kept quiet.
And this is where you and I disagreed on our last episode. I still, after reading the 42-page report, not once but twice, because I did it on my YouTube channel as well, the Michael Cohen Show, I still don't believe it should have been released. Now, not that, and it's funny because a lot of people keep saying, why not? Why not? You know, we have a right to know. First of all, yes, I agree, Mercury Angel. The report is disgusting. From 2017 to 2020, Representative Gaetz regularly paid women for engaging in sexual activity with him. In 2017, he engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl. During that period of 17 to 19, Gaetz used or possessed illegal drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy on multiple occasions, and on and on and on. Here's the thing. The ethics report, the purpose of this report was not to appeal to our prurient interest or the salaciousness of his acts. It is to make a determination whether or not he is fit within which to remain as a member of Congress. The same type of report that ended up getting rid of George Santos. Matt Gaetz stepped away from his position as a member of Congress, thereby, in essence, negating or making the whole purpose of the report moot. And it is longstanding history that if a person is no longer a member of the House or a member of Congress, that these reports are not to be released. Now, let me go one step further here. Not only did that happen, well, he stepped away to become Attorney General or to become a nominee for the Attorney General by Trump. That, had he stayed in, I would say rises to the level that maybe not us, but the Senate should have all of that information so that they could question him at the confirmation hearings onto it. This report, as far as I'm concerned, belongs in the hands of law enforcement. If in fact it's true that he engaged in sexual activity with a 17-year-old girl, as a result, he has violated the state statutory rape law, and he should be investigated for it. All right, plain and simple. But there is no power by the Ethics Committee to do anything other than to make a motion to withdraw somebody from their position as a representative That's the whole purpose of this ethics report. And when he stepped away, again, the whole purpose of it became moot, other than, again, to appeal to our prurient interests.
I disagree with you. Who paid Matt Gaetz's salary during the relevant period of time?
Oh, we all did.
Okay,
We all did it, the taxpayers.
And so he held a public position,
right?
That was paid for by the taxpayers.
Yep.
While using that public position and ostensibly the money that we paid him,
Yep.
Improper gifts, improper trips, illicit drug use, according to the report, statutory rape, according to the report, working with this Joel Greenberg guy, while he was in a position of public trust.
Yep.
If it was a private citizen, a la Hunter Biden, your argument appeals to me, where it's, why would Hunter Biden's
let's not bring Hunter Biden into it. Let's concentrate specifically on Matt Gaetz. I understand your point, and I agree with you. We paid his salary and so on. But the second that he stepped away from Congress, there is no value to this ethics report other than to shame him.
What if it wasn't? What if it wasn't Matt Gaetz? What if it was a lesser known person?
I could care less who. But go ahead.
What if they were your neighbor when your daughter was 17 years old, and they were living in the apartment next to you, and they were potentially hanging out with you? Was that something you'd probably want to know?
So here's the thing. Unless he gets charged by Florida for this crime of statutory rape and becomes what would be, which would require him to be on a list for child molesters and so on, then this, again, report does not actually accomplish that. And that's the only point that I'm trying to make. They have 15 witnesses, thousands of documents. They have a determination. What they can easily do is take the report with all of the witness testimony. They could send it down to Florida, and they can have a DA in the area or the state attorney general take a look at it and make a determination whether or not it rises to an indictment. I understand that. But again, I'm only referring to whether or not it was necessary to release it to the general public, because again, other than the fact that we now know what all 42 pages stand for, we know what all of the allegations and the crimes that were committed, that are determined by this ethics committee. They said that there is no federal crime here, that he only violated Florida state law, which I didn't understand. I read that part about 4 times. Didn't really make sense to me. But at the end of the day, I go back to the same topic, which is, yes, we all know now what it says, but what benefit did that document actually do other than, again, disclose all of these negative things about somebody who is now no longer in government?
To me, it lays out someone who was in government, who committed acts of moral turpitude, potentially crimes. Statutory rape is a crime. He had sex with someone who was a junior in high school while he was being paid by we the people in public. I think we have an absolute right to know about that. I think clearly, I mean, we've heard of the concepts of mandatory reporters before in other contexts. I think that one of the duties of Congress, which investigates all of these things, I guess under your logic, where I think your logic is incorrect, Congress investigates numerous things that aren't necessarily prosecuted for whatever reason that they are.
But they
One of
don't
the
release.
reasons-
But they don't release the document.
That's not true at all. I don't know what you're saying. Of course they released the document.
What document have they released?
I'll give you another example.
Go ahead.
The Senate Judiciary Committee just released a 93-page report about Clarence Thomas and Harlan Crow.
Clarence Thomas is a sitting justice, and we have every right within which to see that.
Harlan
because
Crow is a
he
private citizen.
Matt Gaetz is no longer my only point. I'm not saying that the House Ethics did not do a great job in putting together this 42-page document. I'm just saying that now that we all know what it says, what comes out of that document? And the answer is going to be absolutely nothing, other than the fact that we now know what that document says. And it is a long-standing tradition that you don't do it if the person resigns from Congress, which he did. They did it anyway. They thought it was necessary. I'm fine with it. I don't care. I'm just saying that there's nothing beneficial. You see, Clarence Thomas is a sitting Supreme Court judge. He's still there. So that document is relevant to him as a sitting Supreme Court justice. Matt Gaetz is no longer in government.
So don't use Clarence Thomas. What about every oversight hearing that the Congress does? When they call in telecommunications executives, when they call in the president of the NCAA, when they hold all of these oversight committees of private citizens, they bring them into Congress and they're talking about things like, can Congress pass laws to prevent this types of conduct? And are these people engaged in conduct that's harmful to the public interest? Every day, if you go and look at the congressional docket, there's 8 to 10 different hearings that are held, private companies, private citizens, all of these witnesses that are happening. Congress does oversight. They prepare reports. I would like to know if a member of Congress, you act like that this is like a norm, not saying, you particularly, but, you're almost posing that there's a longstanding tradition of members of Congress engaged in statutory rape. I mean, this is a very unique situation.
Right. And my
there's
point
probably more Republican Congress members who engage in this behavior that have not been caught. But where somebody is, it's a unique situation. So the remedy to deal with this horrific, unique situation, to me,
you're missing my whole point.
At a bare minimum, is to make it public and protect the public safety.
But you're still missing my point. And I think, unfortunately, so are too many of our brigaders. I'm not saying that I didn't want to see the report. I wanted to see it because it appeals to my prurient, my prurient interest, and it's salacious. And yeah, I definitely wanted to see it. My only question is, where is the benefit now that it's released? And the answer is there is none. There is none. Nothing is going to happen now. If the Ethics Committee wants to turn this over, all right, whether they released it or not, then at the end of the day, what will happen is they will either, meaning the state or the federal, the federal U.S. attorney in Florida, will make a determination whether or not there's enough information there for them to pursue a case and to file an indictment. That's the benefit of that ethics report. But releasing it to the general public does not create that benefit. That benefit only exists if the ethics committee turns it over, which I think that they should. Plain and simple. I'm stating facts.
Let me state this fact for you. The governor of Florida is DeSantis. The former attorney general during the relevant period was Pam Bondi, who's now going to be the attorney general. Given Matt Gaetz's stature in MAGA Republican world in red Florida with DeSantis attorney generals, do you believe that there is any chance at all that a DeSantis proxy is going to prosecute Matt Gaetz?
Yeah, but it may not be a DeSantis proxy, but it would be it could be the DA in various different locales, right?
I mean, I would say that pretty much every DA there, other than the ones that DeSantis has personally removed, and remember, DeSantis has taken action against certain district attorneys there. are DeSantis DAs or would be Gaetz DAs. And that's one of the issues why he ultimately, in my opinion, would not have been charged with statutory rape in Florida. But
can I say this? Can I just say one last thing? As a couple of the this comments coming in from our brigaders. Please understand something. We don't need this report to know that the transition team that is nominating this entire group of people, that the bulk of them, the vast majority of them, are completely and wholly unqualified. The ethics report is not to show us that these picks that, these nominees that Trump and the transition team are doing are completely unqualified for the jobs. That's not the purpose of this report. I'm just saying, so now that we've all read it, okay, just tell me, now what? Now just tell me what next. Okay, so we know Matt Gaetz is a pervert. We knew that long before.
Not a pervert. No, there's a difference between
right. He's
someone who they found by substantial evidence engaged in statutory rape.
Right.
And what was important is that there's the difference between saying that as conjecture and having a finding by a bipartisan panel that looks at the issue and then provides evidence with text messages, with payments, so that we, the public, can be informed and we can be knowledgeable. And ultimately, where you may be unfortunately correct is because Merrick Garland didn't have the spine to prosecute at a federal level. Although one of the things when you look through the text messages, the difficulty in having a sex trafficking case was that the women were found on like a seeking arrangement website. And oftentimes the payments were guised as gifts. And when you look through, and I read the whole page and all of the appendix, in a civil lawsuit that was brought by a Republican Florida lobbyists who would host these parties, a number of the women were actually asked during the deposition, do you feel you were trafficked? And the women's response, and again, I'm just telling you what the deposition said. The women would say, no, I don't believe that I was trafficked. That was part of the seeking arrangements website where you would pay for gifts for women to then. The issue is the statutory rape, which is what Congress found, and he's not being prosecuted in Florida.
And the cocaine use and the
cocaine
use and so on.
While in a position of public power. So for me, I feel that now that I know that, now that the brigaders know that, now that the public knows that, knowledge is power. And even if Florida,
in what way? How does it benefit any of us as we're now looking to the next scenario that's going to come? We already knew that Matt.
Well, I'll give you one. I'll give you one example.
Hold on, because Joel Greenberg, his partner in crime here, is doing 11 years. We already knew what Gaetz was doing. This isn't new. It's just the ethics committee put it into a 42-page document. That's all that I'm saying. We knew this all along. This is not new information. Now, Ron, for example, one of our brigaders, turned around and said, yeah, but now we can make sure that he's not representing us anymore. He stepped away from Congress. He's not representing anybody anymore. He'll be representing himself in a court of law, but he's not representing us. That's my only point. I'm happy they released it. I don't care. I just didn't think that it's going to create the benefit other than it created a news story for several days that mainstream media is jumping all over. It just doesn't help us. There are bigger issues right now for us to go ahead and to be talking about.
No, I think this is, I'm going to move on, but I actually think that mainstream media has not covered it enough. I've heard about Hunter Biden's penis for 3 or 4 years. He's a private citizen, not a member of Congress, not picked to be an attorney general. Mainstream media covered all of that, bought right into Republican narratives. Here, Republicans have been covering up for Matt Gaetz all of this time. They are the party of cover up, and they've used their attacks by going on the offense against Hunter. And now we have proof of what they're engaged in. I want to be aggressive. I want to call them out. And to me, if you say all of this was known and Donald Trump, and by the way, I don't think a lot of people knew all of this. You may have known it if you're in the weeds, but a lot of people didn't know all of it. And the fact that Donald Trump and MAGA went all in on this guy, who we now know based on a bipartisan report engaged in this conduct, to me is a message that the public deserves to hear. It deserves to be a rallying call, not just that these people are unqualified, but that they're aiding and abetting a finding of statutory rape by substantial evidence, at least as found by this ethics committee. You and I could go on. We're gonna disagree on this one, but I want to leave people with this final one, and I want to show people what politics is really all about. Jeremy, pull up this video right now that I gave us, which is President Biden at the State of the Union. When President Biden, you remember this moment, was talking about Social Security and how MAGA Republicans wanted to get rid of Social Security. If we've got this clip, let's play it.
We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealthy. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share.
So, how did that actually lead to action? And why do I think that's real power versus Mr. Accordion hands? Because just a few days ago, both the Senate and the House of Representatives passed the Social Security Fairness Act that's going to help firefighters, teachers, and many other public servants who were denied the Social Security monies they deserve get the Social Security right on the eve of Christmas. This is a huge win, and the way President Biden got it done, even though Republicans want to get rid of Social Security, is he had them all go on the record during the State of the Union. Then he had the bill work its way through the House, through old school political maneuvering, work its way through the Senate. Democrats in the House called MAGA Mike's bluff, got MAGA Mike to stop blocking the bill. It got passed in the House. It got passed through the Senate, rushed just in time before Donald Trump and Project 2025 agendas try to take out Social Security. And that's just, to me, an example of what real power is all about. Now, was President Biden, no, he just did the freaking work. And to me, when you watch the interview I did with him, he's someone who just got the work done, who did the work. He was a humble statesman who fought for our country, who fought for people in red states and blue states. He didn't, perhaps he should have put his name on more checks and been louder and more boisterous. That's just not who he is. It's obvious in my interview with him. He's an old school guy who just cared so much about this country. And I hope that's what that interview also leaves as part of his legacy, is that that's what a statesman should be. And I think this example of protecting and saving and getting people Social Security is a perfect example of that. Cohen, I'll give you the final word of the show.
Look, there's really not much I can say at this, point in time. Right now, we need, as a community, to stay focused on the things that are going to help us to correct the wrongs that will guaranteed occur beginning on January 20th of 2025. There's no doubt in my mind, zero, and I pretty much called it when I jokingly or half jokingly said that I could see Trump taking over Mexico and Canada. That's just the beginning of land grabs that they're beginning to talk about. Now, again, is this just Trump bluster, or does he actually intend to do what he says? And I don't know why people don't want to take him for his word when he says that he wants to do it. This is all being fed to him, whether it's Heritage, whether it's going to be Elon Musk. I mean, you talk about, for example, Elon, he's now building the largest battery facility in China directly like a mile or two away from his auto Tesla manufacturing facility, which is the largest facility in the world, manufacturing slightly more than 50% of every single Tesla that hits the market. So when you have somebody who is so financially vested in China, well, who's he working for? And he right now has the ear of Trump. Now, I don't think that relationship is going to last. My only concern is, how do you stop, even as president of the United States, how does he stop Elon Musk from doing the things that he wants or he needs? I think there's some sort of a Faustian bargain that took place here. And again, it's why I say we have to stay focused on the things that really matter to us, that will ultimately change the way that our world, our country, our democracy goes. And to all of those on Trump's transition team, to all of them, I give them the two-finger salute. Fuck you. You're putting in the wrong people. That we already know. You're putting in unqualified people who are part of the agenda. And the agenda doesn't benefit us. It benefits them.
There you have it. A spirited debate between Michael Cohen and myself.
Ben, just let me leave this with our brigaders, just so that they understand. Ben and I don't agree on everything. We both agree that the report was important. We both agree that it was necessary. We both agree that it was that report that ultimately got Matt Gaetz to resign, not only resign from Congress, but also to basically step away as the nominee, to withdraw the nomination of his name as AG. I think we all agree on that. The only thing we agree with is whether or not it's going to do anything for us personally, or it does anything other than, again, just state the facts, which doesn't really matter at this point because he's gone. That's the only difference between us. We both agree on pretty much the same thing. So, just not 100%. It's like you putting in 93 octane. I say, nah, fuck it. Put in 91.
Brigaders, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa.
Yeah, don't fight with me on the holidays.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Appreciate you all.
Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa Blue podcast, not the red. Come on, the red. Do the blue. Mea Culpa Blue, all the new episodes there. If you can, patreon.com/political beatdown. Check us out there as well. Brigaders, for real. We're so grateful for you spending this time with you on Christmas Eve and the first night of Hanukkah. Only 5th time that's happened ever. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy holidays. We love you and have a great one.